What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Saleh, and welcome to AdoramaXP. Boy, oh boy, we are already in October, so that means let's talk about some horror games. My favorite. If you follow us on Twitch, link in the bio, you'll know how much I hate horror games, but yet I play it for you, the viewer, because you want to see me cry. The Callisto Protocol and Dead Space, two games that have very much similarities in their DNA, are coming out, one in December, the Callisto Protocol, and one in January, Dead Space the Remake. Now, which one do you get? Which one do you go for? Are you interested in both? Are you interested in one? There's a lot to unpack here because there's a lot of backstory between these two games. So let's dive right in to the Callisto Protocol and Dead Space. Now, starting with the Callisto Protocol, this is a survival horror game, and it's developed by Striking Dance Studios, published by Krafton. It's made in Unreal Engine 4, and it's available for PS4, PS5, Windows, and Xbox. So it's going to be a next-gen and previous gen, or current gen, for those of you who are unable to get those PS5s and Xbox Series X's. So you'll be able to play this game, which is great. The release date is December 2nd, 2022, so just around the corner, just a couple months away. Now, it's a single-player game, and Krafton, that might sound memorable to you or notable because they are a South Korean company most known for PUBG, Mistover, Terra, and more. So PUBG, we all know it most likely. Now, in June of 2019, a new studio called Striking Distance opened under Krafton with CEO and founder Glenn Schofield. Now, we know who Glenn Schofield is, the creator or one of the creators of the original Dead Space, and he was also the co-founder of Sledgehammer Games. Now, Glenn Schofield, most notable for his work in the original Dead Space, Legacy of Kain games, Lord of the Rings Return to the King, if you were into those Lord of the Rings video games, and a bunch of Call of Duty games. Now, this will be his first game with Striking Distance Studios under Krafton. Many fans were super excited to see Glenn continue his work in the survival horror game. And Dead Space 1, in my opinion, was one of the best games in that sci-fi horror world. Now, there are a lot of similarities between Callisto Protocol and Dead Space, and it's interesting to see where you will lean in these games, either to a recognizable name like Dead Space or a more familiarity, even though it might be repetitive because it's a remake, or a new IP with similarities under Glenn Schofield. Now, originally, Schofield was going to make a game within the PUBG universe by creating a narrative-driven game. But over time, that developed into what we now know as the Callisto Protocol. There are mumblings around that he is semi-tying this to PUBG. We'll wait and see if that becomes a reality. But alongside Glenn, working on the Callisto Protocol, is Steve, who co-developed the Dead Space series, who also took it over once Glenn left Visceral, Scott Whitney, a designer on previous Dead Space series, and many more people. So it seems Glenn has a bit of a following that seems like very good news. Something about his vision or direction seems to have people gravitate toward him. Why else would they want to work on another Dead Space with him, or a Dead Space similarity? So something about him and the ideas he has must be bringing people in. It's like getting the band back together. Now, the first reveal of the Callisto Protocol was during the 2020 Game Awards, where they showed us a teaser CGI trailer. Now, immediately, people started comparing this to Dead Space. I mean, how could they not? Not only was the series helmed and developed by many people from the series of Dead Space, but it also had the same look. The most notable comparison was the holographic indicator on the back of the player's neck, indicating their health. Very similar to the health bar on the back suit of Dead Space. There is an element where you're in space, where you're trying to turn back on a ship, trying to weave your way around tight corridors, blood-covered walls, cutting down limbs. There's a lot of similarities in these two games. Now, Striking Distance wants to make Callisto Protocol one of the scariest games on next gen. And honestly, it shouldn't be too hard of a task, seeing how Dead Space is still one of the scariest games in gaming. Callisto Protocol is set in 2320, and you play as Jacob Lee, a prisoner on a colony called Black Iron, operated by the United Jupiter Company. You are located on one of Jupiter's moons, Callisto. You find yourself right in the middle of an alien invasion. Can you survive and escape? Now, you might have recognized in that new trailer at San Diego Comic-Con, they showed Karen Fukuhara, most known for The Boys TV show. Incredible show, strongly recommended, not for the faint of heart. And she'll be playing Danny Nakamura. So a cool new character that we're going to see. Obviously, every character is new, but it was a cool new reveal of that character and a familiar face that we all know. Now, there's going to be outside expeditions, snowy landscapes. The aliens look kind of undead, and you're turning the colony back on to escape. And what is Glenn most notably known for? Horrific deaths. Now, these deaths look insane. We've seen a couple of them getting killed in the fans, getting chopped in half, your hand being cut off, your head being cut off. The list continues, and I'm sure that's just a tiny bit of what the game is going to show. But what's also really cool is the enemies evolve. So if you were to shoot off an enemy's head, they might not be dead just yet. Their head might open up 2 heads. Or if you cut off one of their arms, that arm might open up 2 more arms. The enemies will ever be evolving. Maybe one kill shot is not a kill shot that we all know. I think this game is going to have crazier deaths and crazier gore than Dead Space. And you can kind of see that in the trailers and the gameplay that we've seen. It just looks covered in blood. Now, just like in Dead Space, you have that anti-gravity pull and push, kind of like a Jedi power, if you will, where you can pull objects and monsters to you and push them into fans or other ways to kill them that's more creative than wasting ammo. So there's, again, more similarities to Dead Space. Is that a good thing? Now, one thing I think is really cool about this is there's a stealth mechanic to the game. In this gameplay trailer, we see him crawling around, hiding behind enemies, stabbing them silently, and doing stealth takedowns. This reminds me very much of Last of Us. Now, I love that idea. I think Dead Space missed a lot of opportunities of having a stealth combat when every combat was going to be a big fight. You are equipped with a crowbar in this game, and you do have the opportunity to dodge while fighting, which is really, really cool, to be able to kind of get up close and personal. So I love the stealth mechanic, and I'm going to do, when I play this game, everything in my power to just play in stealth. Now, a difference in the Callisto Protocol to Dead Space, it looks like the main weapon we'll be using is a revolver rather than a plasma cutter. So cutting off limbs might be a little bit more difficult, or maybe it's the same, it's just with a revolver instead. Now, there are some gameplay trailers that do show a type of limb-cutting weapon, but the main weapon we've seen mainly is that revolver. Now, this does look like a more refined Dead Space, and it's been 15 years since we've seen Dead Space, so it makes sense that with graphic utilizations and updated applications and developer kits, it should be. But I feel like this is the Dead Space that Glenn and company wanted to make, but maybe because being under EA or who knows what, they were unable to do what they wanted, to have the freedom of creating something like this. Now, we do see similarities again with Shoot the Tentacles to cut the limbs in Dead Space, Shoot the Tentacles, which is in Callisto Protocol, and Cut the Limbs, which is in Dead Space, that carryover. I would love to see us play as Danny. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but like a character change, seeing different POVs, I think that would be really cool, different perspectives, rather than just following one character the entire time. And I think it warrants it, because we're used to just that one character, especially in Dead Space, the entire time. So it'd be cool to switch out on that. That is the Callisto Protocol. I'm very curious where y'all stand in that. I think it's going to be a little bit better than Dead Space Remake. I think just because it's a new IP and something we haven't played yet, right? Dead Space, we know what it's going to be. We've played it before. With the Callisto Protocol, I think there's more of a excitement to it, like a shiny new toy element to it. Granted, I think our expectations are going to be higher based on the team behind it. Now let's move to the Dead Space Remake. This was actually kind of surprising. I think a lot of fans wanted this, but it's only been 15 years. Is that a long enough time for a remake? I don't know. For me, I would have rather them made a new type of Dead Space game rather than just remaking Dead Space, but it has that Resident Evil mentality of, here's a fantastic game, but we're going to adapt it to a next-gen console, increase the graphics, but it's going to be the same type of game that we know and love. The developer is Motive Studio. Publisher is EA, just like we all know, and the release date is January 27th, 2023, a month after the Callisto Protocol, which I think is really good for the Callisto Protocol. Now, the engine they're using is the Frostbite engine, and it releases just on next gen and PC. So no PS4, no previous gen on Xbox, all next gen only. So Motive Studio is most known for Star Wars Battlefront 2, Star Wars Squadrons, and the upcoming Iron Man game. Their gaming list is pretty great. They have yet to miss, but it is kind of still small. Now keep in mind, this is a remake. There will be some new additions, but it's made to be a love letter to the original. And we're going to see similar levels, characters, and enemy types from that first game, which we see in the gameplay trailer, especially bosses that we all know. You play as Isaac Clarke, back in his famous suit, an alien invasion. Your job is to escape. They've done an incredible job remaking this, and they've given us tons of footage on their YouTube channel. So much about this are the character models. Here's how we designed the level. Here's how we remade this. So they've given us like a back door, a behind the scenes to it, which I think is really, really nice of them. The graphics are stunning. The sound and level design look and sound fantastic. But when Dead Space 1 came out, they were all like that too. Graphics were incredible at the time. Sound was incredible. I remember hearing the scraping of a wall, or if you're playing on headphones, like what is happening on the right side versus the left side. It just really messed with your head. Dead Space is one of the most favored sci-fi horror games in the world. And this series is a must-play. And I think this game is going to be a must-play when it comes out, just like the first one. To either old fans who will really want to get back into it, or to new fans who never got to play the first one and want to wait for a remake. And just like Resident Evil Remake, a lot of new fans got into it, and a lot of old fans got back to their beloved horror series that got remade into a brand new, exciting franchise again. We're back in it. Now it's a question of what's going to happen after this. If this succeeds, will we see Dead Space 2 being remade, or are they going to go a whole new direction and say, you know what, we're going to take what we've made and make a different type of Dead Space game? Because we know after Dead Space 1, 2 and 3 were not as good as the first one. 2 was good. 3, we're not even going to talk about 3. I think Motive has a bigger hill to climb than the Callisto Protocol. A lot of people are going to compare this to the original because it is a remake. And when making a remake, you want to make the fans happy, those who have played the first one, and bring new fans into it. Keep them engaged, wanting more. It's been 15 years by the time this remake comes out. Is it too soon for Dead Space, or is the timing perfect? Dead Space 1 came out on Xbox 360 and PS3, among other consoles. We're going to see some incredible leaps in graphics. Now, I hope they get to utilize the controller's adaptive triggers on the PS5. That would be really cool to see, too. Now, this remake is just for next gen. PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC, which I think is good. It's been 2 years since the consoles have released. I know not everybody has gotten their hands on the new consoles, but more and more are becoming available, which is a good sign. I think it's time for developers to focus on next gen and not get that cyberpunk issue where you're kind of dividing your developments into previous gen and next gen. I think the biggest red flag of this is that this game is being published by EA, and EA has had a rocky couple of 5 to 10 to 15 years. And will that hurt Dead Space's sales, or will the name and the gameplay be enough to grab hold of gamers? EA has a lot of scrutiny under its name. That's Dead Space Remake. Now, both of these games come out a month from each other, and I think, again, it's really good that the Callisto Protocol comes out first, because more people are going to want to gravitate toward that, then go to the Dead Space Remake, rather than if they went to Dead Space Remake first, they might not want to go to the Callisto Protocol second. So I did a poll on Twitter. Which are you more excited for? The Dead Space game or Callisto Protocol? 66.7% of you said the Callisto Protocol, and 33.3% of you said Dead Space Remake. So that's kind of shows you that a lot of people are gravitating toward the Callisto Protocol because it's something new, something exciting that no one's played before. Granted, the gameplay doesn't make it look new. It makes it look like Dead Space, but I think that's fine. It's from the same developers that have made Dead Space. So let us know where you gravitate toward, whether it being the Callisto Protocol, something new and exciting, or the Dead Space Remake, or even both. Because they're a month apart, you can easily beat one to get to the other. So it's a perfect time for that. I wish these games did come out in October because it would be the perfect Halloween stream to do, especially, you know, the horror fall months. So let us know in the comments. I'm really excited for the Callisto Protocol. I'll be streaming it on AdoramaXP. Click on the link below to join our Twitch. Click on the link below as well to join our Discord. Make sure to like, comment, let us know where you feel about these games and if you're excited for them, or maybe they're just like not exciting at all for you and you're like, you know what, I'm not about that life anymore. Well, I'm Josh Saleh. This was AdoramaXP. Have a great day.